Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are receiving us. And welcome everyone to the last The Bridge Writers from 2020. So today we are going to discuss this very interesting subject, restorative rewriting, and the benefits of holokarmic writing. And we have with us Dulce Daou. So let me introduce Dulce to you. Dulce Daou was born in Manaus, state of Amazon. She graduated in architecture and urbanism, and she has an MBA in education and administration. Dulce is a conscientiology volunteer since 1996, an instructor since 1998, a Penta practitioner since 2000, and an Epicon since 2014. Dulce is the author of 2 books so far. The first one from 2005, not yet translated in English, but it's Self-Awareness and Multidimensionality. And the second book was published in 2014 and is currently under revision in its English version. It's called Will the Consciousness Itself. She is also the co-author of the Manual of Herpetography for the Encyclopedia of Conscientiology. She is the author of dozens of verbets for the encyclopedia as well. And she is also the author of several articles published in conscientiological magazines and journals, including the journal Scriptor, which is the UNIESCON magazine or journal, if you want. So Dulce was a member of the pioneer teams that started 3 CIs, UNIESCON, and Encyclosapiens. And she is currently the coordinator of the team of reviewers of the Encyclopedia of Conscientiology since 2013, when Encyclosapiens started, right? So let me pass to you. It's all yours now, Dulce. Welcome.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming. It's a pleasure to be with you, and I'm really happy to be here, and I hope you enjoy it too. First of all, I'd like to thank Liliana and the team NICE for the invitation to participate in the Bridge project, in the Bridge Writers, really. So now we are going to start with my motivations for writing on this theme. Several things motivated me to write about this topic, especially the recovery of ideas involving writing in general. For instance, the hypothesis concerning a writing critical retro-life and self-reflections about that condition. Questions about how to improve my writing nowadays, including the interaction between content, idea, form, appearance, and clarification task. I have some hypotheses about myself, and I have even written some verbets for the Encyclopedia of Conscientiology, for example, on this theme, and others related. I have also written an article called Para Pós-Fácil, dealing with this topic. Para Pós-Fácil is published in Scriptor, a magazine from UNIESCON.
Ficou sem som.
Hello? Hello?
Está,
It's okay
está
now?
tudo bem.
Yes,
Está tudo
yes,
bem.
everything. Yes, just move on.
Okay. I'd like to present some items regarding the context and the idea of restorative rewriting. First of all, elders. As you know, Dr. Vieira proposes the term elders to explain the condition of the conscience that have lived longer, more times in this planet, on this planet, and consequently exercised leadership more often. And many of us are elders. And before this, let's try to improve our condition. First, intermissive course. We are the first generation of intermissivists after the World War II, and maybe we should reflect more on our responsibility due to this reason. First, lucid self-proaxis. First, self-sowing. Self-sowing is the opportunity for the first time to share our knowledge with others, prepare our next intermissive course and our lucid relay, self-relay, in the next intraphysical life. For example, currently reflecting on our role, considering the various types of writing throughout history, so we can think about literature, poetry, literature of different types, not only novels, but poetry, letters, pamphlets, history, travel books, and on many subjects, mysticism, religion, and materialistic subjects.
Can I just add something that has related to this? So if we only think like 19th century, because now I'm studying the 19th century, right? People did not have social media, they did not have TV and all that. So they spent their free time doing two things, reading and writing. And they wrote a lot. Everyone used to write at least letters, but they used to write letters every day. So they wrote a lot. And we, when you stop and you're studying this, you're researching, and you realize that, you see, today we are probably writing far less than we used to in past lives. And we need to kind of probably catch up to some level.
I'm not sure if we write less, because now we write emails and WhatsApp, but so
Maybe
different.
not every day.
Yes.
So the idea is that we need to go back to every day. Every day is an excellent technique.
Yes. And I think the quality is not the same.
Of course. Of course.
So this is a problem, I think, for us, for everybody.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But now we can write better. Yeah, that's the idea.
Yes. May we go on?
Number 4, I think you were going
Number
written communication.
Number 4. So we can think that written communication is a group responsibility, thinking about intermissivists, for example. Not only intermissivists, but now we're talking specifically about conscienciologists, intermissivists. Now we are going to discuss conscienciographic holotosing. The personal, first of all, our hits will write our destination. So I think it's important to think about this. In the first item, the personal holotosing of interassistanciology. it is important to consider that when we write in conscientiology, we remain immersed in a very homeostatic and intersubstantial holotosing. And another item, the personal holotosing of cosmoetic self and forgiveness. In my opinion, the conscientiographic holotosing is the ideal condition for self-confrontation.
Can I add something as well regarding number one, Dulce? We were discussing this the other day. When we are immersed in this holothosine, and because we are writing, yeah, we kind of go into a certain trance because we are in a different state of consciousness and different, you know, you can see the modified or altered state of consciousness, because you get in a more closer contact with the extra physical team, the equipex around you. So when we are writing conscientiology, it's a very, very special moment. We create a field all around us in the place where you're writing, right? And you get this, you know, get in touch with the equipex, and things start flowing, and you start perceiving when you are doing well, when you are being the mini cog in the maxi mechanism, I think.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Because it's important to think that helpers cannot write themselves. They need us.
Us.
They need, so we can imagine the importance of writing in this dimension to help other conscience and conscience.
Mhm.
So I agree with you. Is this the point? We get together with the helpers because due to our intentionality, when we are
To assist.
talking about writing conscientiology,
Mhm.
to writing, thinking on claritasical.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
I was number 3.
Yeah.
The deeply ingrained holotosins that still needs to be faced by the already published author and the not yet published author. For instance, after I wrote my first book, I changed my extraphysical companies due to the assistance given to these evolutionary friends from the past. And the repair of Dulcenic trails and self-Dulcenity aligned with the intermissive matter Dulceni.
Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yes, the Dulcenic trails are the palpable traces left by us in the course of our lives. As a hypothesis, repairing our Dulcenic trails is one of the main clauses of our project. Hence, the importance of keeping connected to the intermissive course supporting that matter Dulceni, in my opinion.
Very interesting.
With this, at any rate, writing under the consensual paradigm means installing and maintaining the recycled Dulcenity planned in the intermissive course as a fundamental clause, the raison d'être of our existence. Now, I would like to emphasize the definition of restorative writing. What I mean with restorative rewriting. So, restorative rewriting is the act or effect of an intermissive conscious former author in a previous life, now writing the current one, basing this writing on new experiential, multidimensional, and cosmoetical references, undoing or repairing past immature, omitted, or plainly mistaken personal approaches, now using consensual graphic clear tasks.
Mhm.
And to expand on, here what restorative rewriting is and what restorative rewriting is not. So, restorative rewriting is rectifying, compensatory, restorative, repairing, proexological, liberating, new paradigmatic, recycled, and evolutionary. Restorative rewriting is not mimetic, egoic, imprisoning, stagnating, regressive, or coercive.
So this definitely implies that for us to write or rewrite today and repair our trails from the past, we do need to recycle those things that we have to write about. Yeah, it's a
Yes,
process of
yes,
recycling and writing.
exactly.
And
That,
this is now that I'm doing it in the process of writing my book, this became very evident, you know, in a totally different way, because you do realize, okay, I'm writing about this, but what is it that I have to say? And that makes you recycle. There's a number of things that you need to rethink, to redo, to that makes you recycle. Definitely, you get
yeah.
into that holocene of recycling.
And it's very interesting to think about the evocation, because when you don't, if you have a trace, you don't recycle it, you get involved in on a specific holotosing and the concepts together. So it's very important to think about this, because to writing on conscienciology, you need to have a minimum of verb action. Do you agree?
Yes, definitely.
Very, very important.
Yeah.
And I think the quality of the helpers together, um, it depends on our level of recyclation.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. As you
Definitely.
get more, yes, as you get more into the recycling process, the more help you receive as well.
Yes.
That is true. Yeah, that's what I'm feeling that.
So
Let's move on. Yeah.
let's move on.
Yes, and as Anna was writing here, so if anyone wants to ask questions, please feel free. Yeah. If you want to leave them to the end, it's also okay. But if you want to, you know, share with us as we go along, that's also fine.
We live in a graphocentric society. Books are humanity in print.
I love this phrase.
Yes,
Books are
me
humanity.
too. We can think about the importance of writing for the transmission of knowledge in the course of the development of human society. It's also important to consider the hypothesis of the rhizoma of Serenissimi to help improve human genetics and probably contributing for the development of the writing process. Why not? And here we have a definition. Um, this
From a
is a
verbate.
verbet by Hernani Brito, a verbet on Encyclopedia of Conscienciology. And he says, a graphocentric society is an interphysical society whose social organization and cultural tradition are defined, registered, and transmitted through human generations by means of the written word. So here we have, there is some points about writing and history. And there is a very interesting book I would like to recommend to you all, A History of Writing, written by Stephen Fisher. For example, according to this author, synthetically, we can say that first 100,000 years we were proto-scribes, and we can synthesize complete writing around 4,000 years BCE, communication, artificial graphic markings on durable surfaces, marks used conventionally to articulate speech, and then Homo sapiens erectus is distinguished by speech. Homo sapiens sapiens, a global society based on writing. And finally, Homo sapiens conscienciólogos clarifying parapsychic evolutionary writing.
As Dr. Vieira used to say, when you add the parapsyche or when you add the multidimensionality to things, everything expands like that. And then you can talk about evolutionary writing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you can think about this because in the past, the majority of us, all I think not all of us, but many of us didn't know this paradigm. We don't have
But we
the
were already informed with graphic markings in different lives, and not
yes,
just one, for sure. If we are now discussing these subjects, we've been involved with this type of communication for many lives, I think, right?
exactly. Now, talking about this, I will explain something about the phases of writing. It's a timeline. This timeline is a synthesis of the main phases of all types of manifestation in writing throughout history, showing in some way the evolution of knowledge itself. And along the history, considering this brief synthesis, it's possible to observe or suppose that we have created in past lives negative holotosins and left traces that need to be corrected throughout history and through writing and making it right this time. So, for example, we have talking about the timeline, prohibition of ideas, ignorantism, information withholding, elitism. For example, the restricted information held by clergy and monarchy, misinformation. Here we are talking about, for example, mysticism, the esoteric and ectopic ideas from the ancient or medieval people. For example, the Hermetists, the alchemists. Pseudo clarification here exactly religiousness. For example, disclosed by the holy text.
What is this cost? And also, when you're saying about the information withholding, elitism, and you were talking about clergy, it always reminds me of that book and film, The Name of the Rose, where some texts of Aristotle could not be people could not know about them, that he had written about certain things and stuff like that, so they were kept by in the monasteries, in the old libraries, and people didn't have access to that information. It always reminds me of that. Yeah. So the clergy did make made us, you know, I don't know. It's like you've been for centuries. We could have been. We could by now be a lot more evolved if it wasn't for the clergy, for religions. That's fine, I think.
Yeah.
But
This is the history
this
of
is
our
history.
civilization.
Exactly.
So
Especially here in a Western civilization.
yes, yes. But this is a very, very interesting film. I love this film.
The Name of the
Name of
Rose.
the Rose, yes,
Yeah.
yes. We have also mini Claire task talking about materialism. For example, the encyclopedists in the 18th century. And finally, we have conscientiology, mega Claire task.
So yes, what you mean there is that in the 18th century, right, there were already encyclopedia. There was already the French encyclopedists and things like that. But still, the thing was intraphysical. Now we are expanding our knowledge with the everything that we can gather from the extraphysical. It's again the story of adding multidimensionality to it, the development of our parapsychism.
Yes, because there are many books and encyclopedias around the centuries, and we cannot forget and ignore this
Very
knowledge.
important, yes.
It's
Very
very
important.
important for us nowadays, of course. But indeed, we couldn't deal with the dimensionality yet.
Yes,
So,
or we could not deal with it in an open way because of religions again, right?
yes,
So
yes,
this is the big difference. Now we can look
yes.
at it and try to, you know, build a science and look at it in a more scientific way, and how we can move forward from there.
Now we have mega Claire task.
Now we have mega clarity.
Finally.
Finally,
On this
we are in a
planet.
different. Now we can say it as it is. They say in my country. Now they can say it as it is.
We can see that there are many players in the authorship universe. Not only the author itself, but several other roles involved in the transmission or withholding of knowledge in some way. The idea here is to think about the various roles that we may have played in the past throughout history, involving books in general. And in addition to the difficulties caused by the scarcity of technology, there is also the diversity of activities and the diversity of activities and actors around the different types of writing. We can see, for instance, a casting of writing. The author, censor, copyist, literary critic, book destroyer, book distributor, editor, encyclopedist, scribe, exegete, printer, literate, lexicographer, epistolist, pangraphist, poet, preface writer, psychographist, copywriter, reviewer, translator, or proofreader. For example, this is, I think, the most important casting, but probably there are many others players.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit more about this thing that sometimes we doesn't even cross our mind? What about the book destroyers? What do you mean by that?
Book destroyers.
There were times in the past that some of us may have destroyed books, right?
Yes. Because book destroyer is I think it's a very important to a very important item or um,
For us to
for
think
us
about,
to think about and
to investigate as
to
well
investigate exactly because there are many books destroyed
throughout history.
throughout history and I'm going to
If you
talk.
think Alexandria, right? The
Yes, yes. I'm going to talk about this in the next, I think the next slide,
okay.
but because I have some facts about some facts in need of restoration. We are talking about this on the
Mhm.
next slides. But I think Liliana, you talked about a very interesting item because I think it it's a strange
Yeah,
item for me. I know, for instance, two intermissivists that told me that they had some kind of retrocognition and they consider that they have been inquisitors and they have many problems with book destruction.
yeah, because we
And
know during the famous Spanish Inquisition, which was active in several countries, right?
yes,
Loads of books were destroyed. Even
yes,
starting, if you think of it, even in 15th century Italy, during plain Renaissance, you had a guy like Geronimo Savonarola who destroyed and motivated people to destroy books
yes.
in the fire, right? So
Mhm.
there's been throughout history lots of craziness about this.
Yes. There is a very interesting book, but I have this book in Portuguese, The Universal History of Book Destructions by
Yeah,
Fernando Baez. It's
yes,
a very, very interesting book.
this book
I
probably also
recommend this
exists in
book.
English. Yeah, probably also exists in English. Yeah,
Of
I
course,
think so. I
of
think so.
course. Well, let's go on.
Yes, yes, please.
Examples of facts in need of a
There
restoration.
you are.
Here you have. Here, here we have some examples of the most common facts requiring some type of important restoration. Also thinking about the mitigating or aggravating factors due to the zeitgeist.
Of course. Can never forget about the zeitgeist.
The zeitgeist. I love this word, zeitgeist. This word and the idea of zeitgeist.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
everything changed
yeah.
throughout history.
Hmm.
Thinking about zeitgeist.
Obviously.
And you have to think about this to understand to better understand a text. Okay?
Exactly, definitely. Because when you I studied philosophy, right? And when I was reading, for instance, Plato, right? Actually, I read his books. You have to understand the zeitgeist, the culture of the time, to understand why people behaved in a certain way, what was normal for them that is not normal for us today, or something like that. You have to totally, get yourself involved in that history, culture, and the language itself, to understand what they mean by what they read, why, by what they wrote.
Exactly. And what authors can publish. published
Yeah,
in
as
that
well.
zeitgeist.
Exactly. Not
Very
everything was publishable
Yes, yes.
sometimes.
So, first of all, we have cursed books. It's important to remember that each item does not exclude others. Each item of this.
Yeah, you can
First
have
of all,
2 or
cursed
3 in the same book.
Yes. The grimoire, also known as a book of spells, is a textbook of magic, typically including instruction on how to create magical objects like talismans and amulets, how to perform magical spells, charms, and divination, and how to invoke supernatural entities. Now invoke our helpers and concepts to help.
Yeah.
But this kind of book, the grimoire, it was very they lead with this of a very different kind, very different way. Dangerous books.
Regina was mentioning here exactly, it's related with dangerous books as well. Yeah, she is mentioning on the chat. Maybe because she is saying maybe because after reading it, lots of young people committed suicide. But maybe I mix it up. But this is particularly the case of number 2. Yeah, that you are going to
Okay, exactly.
dangerous
The
books.
Sorrows of Young Weather is a loosely autobiographical epistle novel by Goethe, banned in some countries due to this problem in the 18th, due to evoking suicide. Another kind of
Melanie is saying, yes, we still had to read that in university. Yeah, there's good points to it, but there's bad points to it, obviously.
Anachronistic intraphysical concepts, destroyed, forbidden, or banned books. This item you are talking about?
Yeah, the Library of Alexandria.
Yes, due to the zeitgeist, for example, the Library of Alexandria, the Index Librarium Prohibitorium.
What's that?
Was that?
What is that? Which book?
What is that?
Are we talking about?
The Index Librarium Prohibitorium was a list of books made by the church in the Middle Age. Specifically, this Index Librarium Prohibitorium has been written and published at 1570, but other lists were done before this one.
Yeah, the books that you cannot read, right? That you have
cannot read, and you must destroy or burn. We don't know exactly. There are many kinds of destructions and ways of forbidding them. Another item, intellectual vanity, the egocentric text. It's very common in the present, I think. There are many, till today, many writers that don't think in others to write. Number 6, mega intruders. For example, the book Directorium Inquisitorium, written by Nicola Emeriti, and comments from Francisco Peña. This is a handbook of procedure for the Spanish Inquisition.
The Procedures for the Inquisition.
Yes.
Great book.
Yeah. Wow. Another book, Maleus Maleficarium, by Kramer and Sprenger. This book was a guide for inquisitors and elevated the sorcery to the criminal status of heresy. This was a very interesting thing to inquisitors, because if sorcery is a criminal, has a criminal status of sorcery, it's more easy to condemn them.
Yeah. And some of us probably were burnt at the stake because of some of these things as well.
Yeah.
I have a little impact with that kind of thing. I think that on one of my past lives I've been burned. So
Yeah.
I wonder why.
Mhm.
So let's see.
So,
Melanie is asking something interesting here. She's saying how to deal with dangerous books or books of mega intruders in a healthy society. Is the act of banning books like Hitler's Mein Kampf valid cosmoethically, or should all books be available freely?
I think it's not cosmoethic to ban any book. I think prohibition, burning,
Doesn't
banning
work.
doesn't work,
It's not that way.
because you need to explain to you to deal with education, but not forbid.
Yes.
So we know that there are many naughty, dangerous books nowadays. For instance, there are manuals of terrorists explaining how to deal and how to build
Bombs and things like
bombs,
that.
for instance.
Yeah.
If
Yeah, Dave and Jane Lloyd are also saying I totally agree with Dulce. Yeah, it's not by prohibiting things that we get anywhere.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
Regina asks, what about misleading religious texts like the Bible, for instance? What do you think?
What about?
What about religious texts like the Bible? I think it's all about education, about being able. I don't know what you think, and we want your opinion, obviously. I think that's all about education and being able to read what it is, like all these texts that were written. Look for the historical facts. I think one of my first concerns when I was very young is about religion. For instance, the first thing that I asked myself: did this guy really exist historically, or is this a created character? This Jesus? And then I started studying history because of that, because I wanted to know: did this guy even exist? And so, why is it that people have created all these ideas, all these metaphors, about religion? What is it for? Why do? Yeah, but you have to read and study and think about, and then discern for yourself as well. That's my opinion.
Exactly. Because I think the books, the religious books, are important for many people in this planet nowadays. But if you can write and explain about the problem of religions in general, I think it's important to educate people who want to be educated. We cannot oblige, or
Of course.
it's
Yeah.
very, very difficult due to the zeitgeist. The zeitgeist
Yeah.
is a very religious
Yeah,
If you
and
think
we know
about,
that
for instance,
obviously that the countries that are still very religious and
and
people
others,
don't have access to certain information, to certain, level of
mhm,
education or something, these countries are even poorer because they are poor intellectually. So they are poor in sometimes in different on different levels, so to speak.
yes, yes. But the separation between religiousness and the government in general is something difficult in some way.
In some countries, it's
Some
still,
countries, in some countries,
yeah, it's still very complicated.
yeah.
It's very sad. Okay,
Um,
what about naive writing? What can you tell us about that? Ah,
naive
no,
right.
misinterpret text. I think that.
Misinterpreted text is there.
Mhm.
For example, we have here the guide for the perplexed. The writing, for instance, the writing about forbidden multidimensional knowledge. This book repudiated, repudiated some ideas, and he was Moses Maimonides was written. This book was written by Moses Maimonides, and this his works were banned years later. And the idea of this book, I didn't
Read it.
read it, but the general idea was to explain or to talk about the readers that get perplexed to some holy texts, for example.
Yeah, and you couldn't do that in those days, right? Explaining holy texts. Come on, these are not to be explained. Dogmas are so, so much better.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
difficult nowadays. So
still. What
in
about the naive
the
writing?
naive writing, uh, for instance, naive writing, love letters, angelology books. There are many kinds of naive letters
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
through the history. And the other item, obsolete writing. The old books about, for example, about medicine or other pre-sciences, astrology, alchemy, or magic in general.
Mhm, mhm. Very
Okay,
good. Yes.
now here we have some possible transpositions.
So transposition, what do you mean by transposition?
Transposition means to transpose, to overpass. And in this context, the self-transpositions are the overtaking of imposition or category from one condition to a better one more advantageous from an evolutionary point of view. And here
Mhm.
are 7 examples of possible transpositions by the authors. Cognitive transposition, the use of recovered megacons from the first intermissive course. Lexical self-transposition, the use of conscienciological terms contributing to the advancement of new science. Subject transposition, the emphasis in making the clarification task, establishing the prioritization in the most evolutionary and cosmoetical possible way. Another item, the fact self-transposition. Here is the agency of new realities, facts and parafacts from the authorial position. For example, attracting synchronicities. This is very common when we writing,
Yes.
conscientiology, the attraction of synchronicities, the attraction of conscience and facts and
Consciences. We
yeah,
attract everything.
conscience,
We attract everything. Facts and better
everything.
facts. Yeah.
Social self-transposition. Here is the change of social role, assuming the condition of author of a new paradigm. It's very
Aha.
important to think about this.
Yes. You told me, yeah, it's their stories that some people, especially in academia, they still don't feel comfortable about writing a book in conscientiology because they are in academia. And if someone knows that they wrote something in conscientiology,
Exactly.
nah. So there's still some fears that need to be
Yes.
recycled, I suppose.
It's a very important self-transposition.
Yeah.
Cultural self-transposition, the experience of conscientiological multidimensional culture, qualifying personal writing, and Dulcenic self-transposition. Here is the experience itself of the new paradigm allowing thematic writing and resinology. Here we have some parafacts considering our holobiography. Here we have some parafacts related to our past lives, imprinted in our paragenetics. For example, just chronological holobiographic self-baggage, the self-baggage regarding everything we've learned and written all along our holobiography. Personal investment in intellectual parapsychism. Here is another important parafact. The effort we make to develop our intellectual parapsychism. For example, trying a lucid contact with helpers, clear tasks, new ideas, weapons, and other subjects
Yeah.
related to evolution in general.
We were discussing the other day. So this idea also that this idea that's not an idea, it's a reality. As you get closer to the helpers, when you are in this bubble, right, in conscientiology, right, this bubble, this field that you create around you, and you get closer to the helpers, this obviously helps you to develop your intellectual parapsychism. Gradually, the more you do this, the more you
Yes,
evolve in that domain.
yes, yes. This is my case, Liliana, because since um, there are many years, more than 10 years, I work every day. I deal every day to Encyclopedia of Conscientiology.
Yeah.
I read something, I review, I write, and it's very interesting to observe the difference of my parapsychism, intellectual parapsychism.
We've discussed this a long time ago. So it's like everything is a process. We are not all of a sudden. We don't wake up and we have very evolved intellectual parapsychism. It doesn't happen like that. It
Yeah.
happens all along your holobiography, and also now in conscientiology, the more you deal with it on a daily basis, the more you see that this changes, this develops, this increases this capacity, this connection with the not physical world, right? With the extra physical, the echipexis, depending on what you're writing.
Okay.
It's all a process.
So it's a process,
Mhm.
a
Number 3.
long process.
a long process, but we've been in it for many
We need to
lifetimes.
start.
No, we have started already, so it's just let's move on.
Let's move on. Now we are in
Number three.
Item 3, intermissive planning of a ProX, which includes repairing or restoring multisecular mistakes. Considering evolutionary logic, we obviously prepare and program to correct and restore our past mistakes involving our group. Recovery of megacons, confirming the effect of the pre-rhizomatic intermissive course. Let us also remember the recovery of megacons, which is a characteristic of all intermissivists, improving their motivation and self-confidence before existential tasks in general.
Mm-hmm.
Here we have some facilitators of restorative rewriting.
Good thing that we have facilitators.
Many facilitators. Here we have some of them, but there are many others.
Yeah.
It's very important to each one of us to discover the facilitators, the self-facilitators.
Yes, very important.
Very important. First of all, I think in my case, it was assuming your intellectuality. Consciential graphological verb action, undoing personal cognitive distortions, attention to favorite subjects, attracting words, recovering relegated knowledge, pro-writing volitionalism, and destructive cosmoetics over an ectopic retroiderarium. Here,
Can I ask about what attracting words? What do you mean by
attracting words? I love attracting words. The attracting words are these words that you love. There are many words that they sound good. You enjoy to pronounce them, and they have another sign. They promote some kind of different energy, and they are important to deal with the writing.
Yeah, because sometimes they can be like clues to certain things, right? They can work as clues.
Yes. For example, in my case, I love the word cosmoetics, self-consciousness, claritestical. These are words that I love. I love them, and I think they have a strict relation to my ProX.
Okay, very good. What about the pro-writing volitionalism? So that people are clear, the volitionalism is like the gasoline, right? But it's a different gasoline, right? You have a book about this.
Gasoline, because it's a gasoline. It's an energetic gasoline. Volitionalism is our consciential energy, and this
our
kind
volition
of energy,
our
strong will, to your intention, your volition. And here, when I say pro-writing volitionalism, is to put your consciential energy thinking about writing. And when you thinking and you involve yourself in writing in general, you promote volitionalism pro writing. I think it's very important.
It's like when you start, then it's difficult to stop.
Yes.
I think. Yes. there's
Sure.
this thing, the more you do it, the more you enjoy it, and the more you get involved you get
Yes.
with it, it's like, yeah, the volition.
Professor Baldo, he always said that writing was a cachaça in Portuguese. I don't know in
Like
English.
yeah, well, it's like a strong spirit. Like, yeah, something that you drink.
So I'd like to talk about destructive
Yes.
cosmetics. Considering writing is the elimination of the worst condition allied to the best writing comfort through a strict and discerning deconstruction of paragraph, page, chapter, article, or a book by the author, involving an exhaustive review of the text or even its disposal. And destructive cosmetics over an ectopic retroideal means to apply this concept concerning old ideas, sometimes not yet identified by the author. Okay?
Mhm. This is a difficult subject, right? Because you have to do this. It's not so easy. It's a learning process for me, at least, sometimes.
Yes, it's not very easy. I agree with you. I've written an article about this, I and Katia Arakaki, about the destructive cosmetics in writing.
I have to put this in English.
Yes,
That would be a good idea.
only in Portuguese. In Scriptor, it's published in
Scriptor. Okay,
Scriptor
I'll have a look.
review.
Yes, because it's a very important subject.
Yeah,
Okay, let's move on.
let's go on.
Mm.
Opportunities created by conscienciographic.
Oh. Okay.
It's said that conscienciography has many evolutionary benefits, but we can ask ourselves, is it true or why is this so? There is another article, there is a special edition of Scripture about this theme, benefits of writing. It's very important to have to translate to English.
Yes.
Yeah. We don't know exactly the details of these occurrences, but we can hear and read a large number of authors talking about this, the
The benefits.
benefits
Yeah.
of writing conscienciology. And here are some examples. Experience self-unforgiving and ether-forgiving synergism. It means, for instance, the exercise of self-unforgiveness and ether-forgiveness through the predominance of the mental somatic oligocene. Here, the qualifying of personal evolutionary file path due to the clear task and assistance in general to invoke the consciences along with the writing of our personal evolutionary rights, the path gets improved. And now I'd like to remember that, as you know, the path is the extraphysical record of information and personal details of our manifestations made by the evolutionologists.
Right. It's all you've done in all your holobiography registered somewhere.
Yeah.
You can access that. We can
cannot
access that.
You cannot write your path, but you can write.
It gets written with things you do.
To improve your path.
You can write to improve, yes. That's true.
Proof of paraprovenance and having completed an intermissive course. some retrocognitive phenomena can happen. For example, clarifying details of your consciousness self. Consciential graphology is a non-transferable evolutionary tool. It's important to consider one of the rules of ProX proposed by Dr. Vieira. He says that every ProX is personal, is non-transferable, and specifically suited to that person. And another interesting aspect is the role of the new encyclopedial graphology being an important group evolutionary opportunity due to the collective participation of hundreds of authors working together in the same encyclopedia. Currently, we are more than 800 herpetographers. And here, it's important to emphasize that conscienciological writing is indeed an holokarmic activity because it promotes benefits and effects in all aspects of our karma. First of all, for example, we have here, we can observe the following evokarmic benefits. There is a verbiage from Dr. Vieira called holokarmic writing, something like it's very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It's very interesting, right?
You send me these verbs and I'll try to translate them.
You need to translate it, Liliana. Pleasure, I'll send it to you.
Yeah, please
So, here we have egokarmic benefits. The improvement of personal cognition, of course, due to the correction or compensation for damage caused. The recovering personal coherence due to the upgrade of the activity. Increase the personal freeway due to the assistance done. Support for self-recycling due to the self-research and responsibility with verb action. When you write in conscientiology, you feel this. You don't get very well when you have no verb action about the theme you are writing. I think the helpers they act together to improvise, to move on and to recycle.
Mm-hmm.
Post-authorship new worldview. Due to the parapsychic possibilities of self-knowledge related to the past and present writings. Rewriting one's personal history due to the cosmoetic approach and intellectual activism, constructing new existential possibilities from now on. And lucid interexological self-relay due to the link with the self-graphical themes printed in conscientiological articles, verbs, or books. Here we have group karmic effects, authorial new positioning before conscience and consciexes, intellectual retro companions, mental somatic new ideology of multidimensionality. Considering groupokarmology, one of the most important aspects of conscientiological writing is the authorial new positioning before conscience and consciexes, considering the wholly new consciential paradigm. Claritestical interassistance to past full consciences. It's a very important thing to think about. It's important to remember the strength of evocations between people from elaboration of ideas and research during writing in general. Rerouting of assisted concepts. It's inevitable to attract extraphysical companies from our past, for example, to be assisted through our new positioning and our new ideas. And the renewal of extraphysical companies, I've told you about my case. It's also natural to renew the auto extraphysical companies, especially when the author is lucid and interest in the rewriting, restorative rewrite.
I think that if I can just say something, in the process of writing, you jumped a slide. In the process of writing, and you start, or even when you're still investigating, researching and you're writing, you do start, receiving the visit of some of your extra-physical friends or not so friends. Regina was asking here, what is faux conscience? Faux conscience, we mean those that are not friends, right? Yes. Those that were our adversaries in the past, in past lives. So sometimes, yeah, and they show up kind of, what's going on with you now? What are you talking about? Why are you thinking this? Why are you evoking, these things and stuff like that? I was doing until the beginning of this year the seriexological dynamics with the Consecutivos team, and I started, noticing some, some extra physical people, some consciences, some faces, and then when I was in, researching, I say, oh, this is that guy that was there in the dynamic. Oh, this is that guy. And so people from 19th century England started showing up for me in the sexological dynamics. Ah, okay. So some are friends, some are not so much. Right.
Yeah. Yes, because we think, I think we must remember that for many reasons we went to the intermissive course, but our companions of the past, we don't know exactly.
Yeah, some did, some didn't. I remember the first time I moved, the first time I visited Brazil, and I came to do my ACP2 with Dr. Vieira. And when I went to see him, he said, okay, now you go there and you see all your companions from the past, some friends, some not so much. It doesn't mean that they didn't have access to the intermissive course, right? Obviously, you can have different ideas, but you're all in the same boat. Evolving is our thing.
Okay. So now we can talk about polykarmic effect.
Yes.
Boardless interdimensional assistance. After the publication of the book, the author can act in a broader way. For example, by helping unknown readers with no established boundaries. It's very important to think about. About these polykarmic effects. Contributing to the planet's positive holotosine. There is also an important contribution to the planet one through the broadcast of the author's holocausting and new ideas, consolidated by published materials, course, and those same proposed and reinforced by the readers around the world. This
And
is
that's the
very,
thing.
very
Yeah,
interesting.
definitely when you write and you publish, you, no matter what you're starting, if you haven't started yet, you start your polychemic account because you don't know how many people you are going to affect intraphysically and extraphysically with a book. Right?
And lastly, consolidating conscientiology.
Yeah. Because we have
Each
to think
book,
we are building a science, right? So we need to
yes,
write.
sure. Each book published containing personal response and restorative experiences of the author contributing to the consolidating of the new science conscientiology, considering the power of proexology and related actions. And here we have some challenges. I love these sentences from uh, Lexico of
Or
Orthopensato.
orthopensatus, yeah.
If evolutionary challenges do not arise for you in your existence, it has arrived the time to create them. So,
It's so without human beings do not evolve without challenges. That's
yeah,
what it is.
we have many challenges and
In the writing universe.
yes, and types of writing, thinking in types of rewriting.
Yeah.
But you would ask me, why challenges? Because to be able to rewriting on these themes, you need to recycle them.
Yeah, as we were
Yes.
discussing before.
So let's go on. Artistic, mental somatic rewriting, restoring past, passionate artistic text. Bellicist, pacifist rewriting, restoring past conflicting authorial ideals, defending wars. Biographic, interassistential rewriting, restoring incorrect or defamatory biographies. Consultascal, technical rewriting, restoring the excesses of sweetened, consolating text. Dogmatic, disbeliefological rewriting, restoring the dogmas once imposed and spelled out. Ideological, holophilosophical rewriting, restoring revolutionary ideals in search of power. We have many challenges. Inquisitorial, max fraternal rewriting, restoring text, inciting the insanity of inquisitorial consbells. Materialistic, multidimensional rewriting, restoring registered multisecular intraphysicalist and electronautic convictions. Militant, clarifying rewriting, restoring the guidelines of guerrilla or terrorist instruction manuals. Mystic, self-exemplary rewriting, restoring the links with multisecular mystical reader. Monarchic, parallelological rewriting, restoring absolutist monarchic edifices.
Oh,
Nomographic, cosmoetical rewriting, restoring ancient draconian legislation. And next, and finally, political, parapolitical rewriting, restoring the defense of anti-democratic ideals. Racist, universalist rewriting, restoring theses that defend racial superiority. Religious, parapercepciological rewriting, restoring manipulative liturgical prescriptions. Sensationalist, verbonological rewriting, restoring mercantilist, authorial fallacies. Sexist, seriexological rewriting, restoring the text, degrading genosomatic conscience. And suicidal, proexological rewriting, restoring the existential deviation of suicidal novels.
Questions.
Questions.
Anyone having questions? Now it's time.
Now we have some questions to think about.
Yeah.
Have you already considered the effects of restorative rewriting? Have you already assessed your possible roles related to writing past lives, even if you don't consider yourself a retro author? And what level of theories have you already reached as regards personal productivity in favor of graphotocenic restoration?
Melanie says, I have several ideas for books. How to prioritize which one to start with? What kind of guideline, if you have some? I don't know. I'll let you answer, but I also have the same probably, Melanie. So you have to start somewhere. And in my case, I was going in a different direction. I've been doing some courses with consecutivos about holobiography, and I was going in a direction. And actually, during Penta, or at the end of Penta, the helper gave me a name that led me into a different direction. Like, okay, this one first, this thing first, this, because obviously the name is related to a person. This person wrote many books, and it's an hypothesis of not of a consecutive personality, but of critical personality. And there's some rewriting to do there according to the ideas that this woman wrote about in the 19th century Victorian era. So yeah, you have to start somewhere, but you also sometimes you get some extra physical guidance. You know, this is my case. Each case is a different case. What do you think about it, Dulce? What tips can you give?
I think the most important is to start something, to write something, because the helpers, it's very, very interesting. You can observe immediately the presence and the work of the guides, the extra-physical guides together, because
things flow, you know, if they kind of guide you in that sense, you know, if you go in the right direction, there's a flow. You start seeing a flow, you start having synchronicities about what you're doing, so lots of things start happening.
If you keep a link with the helpers, everything goes easier. And I think the most difficult is to begin and think about writing, think about clear tasks.
I would also like to say, like, me and Anna, there we started this field, a specific field with UNIESCON, right? Emotion in writing. And I was very much blocked in the writing process, but the Equipex unblocked me in the first class, the first day, and I started there and I didn't stop yet. So it was unbelievable. obviously, this is something that so far has been happening only in Portuguese, but my idea is very much to try and have it in English. I don't know, hopefully in 2021, maybe we can do something like that in English, because it's also what the coordinator of UNESCO, Eduardo Martins, told me is, how many people do you have interested in doing this now? If you get 6 people, we can start in English.
Yeah, of course.
So the thing is, Melanie, are you interested? Okay, send me an email or a message on WhatsApp or something. As long as you have people interested in writing, we can start this, and we can have this immersion in writing, which this is not about classes. It's a field. It's a field where you discuss there's always 2 teachers in each session. It's over a weekend, but it's very doable, a few hours here, a few hours there. And it's an immersion where actually the Equipex is working with you, and that is very palpable, because the Equipex is not here in Foz, is everywhere. So when I started writing, the Equipex was in my room. So it's surely in everyone's room as well, right? And you do unblock, and you start, and that helps you maybe even to find what is it that I have to do first. And also, if you guys rewatch all the sessions that we had this year in the bridge writers, you also get some ideas from them, because this theme has been mentioned before. So watch the previous ones as well. This will help as well for you to think. Like Juliana Costa wrote, her presentation was exactly, what should I write first?
Mm.
So all that helps, and hopefully there will be more next year. Yes, we intend to carry on, obviously, next year with more presentations. And yes, if we get to a number of like 6 people, we can do this in English, the immersion in writing. Okay, Regina is interested too. Got 2. We need 4 more, and we can probably start doing this. Just send me the message on WhatsApp, email, we start putting people together. We start organizing things. I tell you, it's unbelievable, but don't believe in anything I say. Have your own experiences. Yeah, I was blocked for years, like for 20 years, not being able to write anything. And I got unblocked in first class, in the first session. So it's for real.
I was blocked for years before I've written my first article in conscientiology. Due to this, I think it is important to begin something.
To begin something, yes.
But now we have these activities.
Yeah.
At UNICEN, so they are
And
very
UNESCO.
important.
Mm-hmm.
UNISCON.
Yeah, and you have that thing. Once I kind of said to the writer, yes, I want to become a writer. And the answer was, write.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so writers, write. So the answer from the help was just one word, write. We have to start, yeah. And I always remember also when I was preparing, when I was many years ago, back in, I don't know, 1998 or 1999, when I was giving classes in Lisbon. Sometimes the helper would say, sit, put your hands on the board. Otherwise, we cannot help you. And yes, okay, so I obeyed. I would sit, computer, and then it would started flowing. And that's how I prepared like my thematic lectures. Because, you know, you have to sit, you have to put your hands on that thing, and you have to start writing. And things start happening.
Okay. Liliana, we need to finish.
Okay, if you need to finish, let's move on.
The emphatic sentence.
Aha, let's do it. Where is your emphatic sentence? This is like at the end of verbets, you know, of the Encyclopedia of Conscienciology.
Yes,
There is
yes.
always a sentence like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just this. I'm going to present you like you do in the end of all verbets of the Encyclopedia of Conscienciology, what you call an emphatic sentence. So restorative rewriting, based on claritestical interassistance, promotes the settlement of group karmic debts and the graphotocenic recomposition of the intermissivists in favor of polykarmality. Is this?
That is
Thank
this.
you. And good research and authorial group karmic restoration to all.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dulce. I don't know if anyone, we are already on time, but if anyone has any very urgent question, if not, you can send questions and then for sure that Dulce will answer them. But you have something now. So yeah, Melanie is saying, thank you. This was very interesting. Thank you to you as well. Thank you so much from Virginia Chud. Dave and Jane are also saying thank you. Maricruz, Maricruz was there. Very good. Adina, thank you so much. Okay, Ana Ruiz. Okay, thanks everyone for being here with us. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, please feel free to send them to us. They will get answered. And we'll be back next year in February. And hopefully in January, we'll let you know who is going to present next year and, you know, the days exactly and all that. So yes, thank you to everyone. Thank you, Dulce. Thank you very much. That
Thank
was really
you
great.
to everyone.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
See
Thank
you.
you.
See you next year. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Okay.